The rain stung Nicholas's face like 1,000 tiny needles. Each drop a reminder of the door slammed shut behind him. At 18, he'd been cast out of his family's Long Island home. His father's final words, "You're no son of mine," echoing in his skull. Now, shivering on a park bench in Brooklyn, Nicholas clutched his tattered backpack, the only remnant of a life that no longer wanted him. It was 2025, and New York City pulsed with life, indifferent to the boy whose world had crumbled. Nicholas's dark hair plastered to his forehead, his blue eyes scanning the empty park for shelter. He'd always known his conservative parents wouldn't accept him, but the reality of their rejection, after he'd come out as gay, hit harder than he'd braced for. His mother's tears, his father's rage, and his younger sister's silence as he left haunted him. With nowhere to go and $23 in his pocket, the bench was his bed, the stars his ceiling. By day, Nicholas wandered, seeking odd jobs to scrape by. A bodega owner let him sweep floors for a sandwich. A barista slipped him free coffee when a manager wasn't looking. But nights were brutal. The park bench, cold and unyielding, became his refuge, though it offered no comfort. He'd lie awake, replaying the moment he'd told his parents, wondering if he could have stayed silent, stayed safe. Yet, even in his lowest moments, a spark of defiance burned. He wouldn't hide who he was. Not anymore. One evening, as the city's lights flickered to life, Nicholas sat on his bench, sketching in a worn notebook. Art was his escape, his way of making sense of the chaos. His pencil traced the lines of face, sharp cheekbones, warm eyes, a stranger he'd seen in a coffee shop, someone who'd smiled at him like he was human. The memory warmed him, if only for a moment. "Nice drawing," a voice said, startling him. Nicholas looked up to see a man, mid-40s, impeccably dressed in a tailored coat, standing under a street lamp. His salt and pepper hair caught the light, and his eyes held a kindness that felt foreign. "Mind if I sit?" Nicholas tensed, clutching his notebook. "It's a public bench," the man chuckled, settling beside him. "I'm Marcus. I walk through here most nights. Seen you around." He paused, studying Nicholas's wary expression. "Rough spot to be in." "Huh?" Nicholas shrugged, unwilling to spill his story to a stranger. But Marcus didn't push. Instead, he pulled a thermos from his bag. "Hot chocolate." "Want some?" Hesitant, Nicholas accepted, the warmth of the drink seeping into his chilled hands. They sat in silence, the city's hum filling the space. Marcus didn't ask questions, didn't judge. He just shared the drink and left, promising to pass by again. Over the next week, Marcus became a fixture. He'd bring coffee, a sandwich, or just conversation. Nicholas learned Marcus owned a tech company, lived in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, and had a knack for making people feel seen. Slowly, Nicholas opened up about his art, his dreams, his family's rejection. Marcus listened, his presence a lifeline in Nicholas's storm. One night, as snow dusted the park, Marcus handed Nicholas a business card. About a guest room. No strings attached. "You shouldn't be out here in this cold." Nicholas stared at the card, torn between hope and suspicion. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Marcus smiled, his eyes crinkling. "Because I was you once. Kicked out at 16 for the same reason. Someone gave me a chance. I'm paying it forward." The words hit Nicholas like a tidal wave. He wanted to believe Marcus, but trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. Still, the snow was falling harder, and his fingers were numb. He nodded, pocketing the card. "I'll think about it." As Marcus walked away, Nicholas sat alone, the card burning a hole in his pocket. The city glittered around him, indifferent yet alive with possibility. For the first time in weeks, he felt a flicker of hope, a chance to rewrite his story. Nicholas stood outside Marcus's building, a sleek Manhattan tower that seemed to pierce the clouds. The business card trembled in his hand, his breath visible in the frosty air. He'd spent 3 days debating, weighing the risk of trusting a stranger against another night on the bench. Finally, he stepped inside. The lobby was all marble and glass, a world away from the gritty streets he'd called home. The doorman, a burly man with a kind smile, waved him toward the elevator. "Mr. Caldwell's expecting you." Marcus's penthouse was a revelation, floor-to-ceiling windows, modern art on the walls, and a warmth that made Nicholas's chest ache. Marcus greeted him with a grin, no judgment in his eyes. "Glad you came." "Hungry." Over dinner, homemade lasagna. Of all things, Nicholas felt the knot in his chest loosen. Marcus shared his own story, a teenager disowned for being gay, scraping by until a mentor gave him a job and a place to stay. Now, he ran a tech empire and quietly helped others like Nicholas. "You've got talent," Marcus said, nodding at the sketches Nicholas had shown him. "You just need a chance to shine." Nicholas moved into the guest room, a space bigger than his old bedroom. For the first time in months, he slept without fear of being woken by rain or danger. But trust came slowly. He kept waiting for the catch, for Marcus to reveal some ulterior motive. Yet Marcus asked for nothing, only encouraged Nicholas to keep drawing, to dream bigger. Days turned to weeks. Nicholas found a part-time job at a local art supply store, thanks to Marcus's connections. He enrolled in community college art classes, his portfolio growing under the guidance of professors who saw his potential. But the past clung to him. Late at night, he'd wake from dreams of his father's voice, his mother's averted eyes. He wondered if they ever thought of him, if they regretted what they'd done. One afternoon, while sketching in a coffee shop, Nicholas locked eyes with a barista, Ethan, the man from his notebook. Ethan was 22, with warm brown eyes and a smile that lit up the room. He slid a latte across the counter, his fingers brushing Nicholas's. "You're the artist, right? I've seen you drawing here." Nicholas blushed, caught off guard. "Yeah, just doodling. Doesn't look like doodling to me." Ethan's grin was playful, his voice a soft drawl. They talked until Ethan's break ended, and Nicholas left with a phone number scrawled on a napkin. Their first date was at a dive bar in the East Village, neon lights casting a glow on Ethan's sharp cheekbones. He was a film student, passionate and unapologetically himself, with a laugh that made Nicholas forget his scars. They talked about art, movies, and the dreams they'd buried under life's weight. When Ethan reached for his hand, Nicholas didn't pull away. But vulnerability scared him. Each step closer to Ethan felt like a step toward risk. What if Ethan left? What if this happiness was temporary? Still, Ethan's warmth was a magnet, pulling Nicholas from his shell. They spent evenings wandering the city, sharing stories under streetlights, their connection growing like a flame in the dark. One night, as they sat on a park bench, the same one Nicholas had once called home. Ethan kissed him. It was soft, tentative, but it set Nicholas's heart racing. "I'm not going anywhere," Ethan whispered, as if sensing his fear. For the first time, Nicholas believed it. Yet, as winter deepened, a shadow loomed. Marcus received a call that made his face go pale. "It's about your family," he told Nicholas. "They're looking for you." Nicholas froze, the words hitting like a punch. His family, the ones who'd thrown him out, were looking for him. The idea churned his stomach, a mix of hope and dread. Marcus explained a private investigator had tracked Nicholas to the art supply store, asking questions. His parents wanted to meet. "Why now?" Nicholas's voice cracked. "They made it clear I was dead to them." Marcus sighed, his expression heavy. "People change. Or they don't. But you get to decide what happens next." Nicholas didn't know what he wanted. Part of him ached for reconciliation, for his mother's hug, his sister's laugh. But another part remembered the slammed door, the venom in his father's voice. He wasn't that scared kid anymore, but the wounds were still raw. He turned to Ethan, who listened as Nicholas poured out his fears. They were in Ethan's tiny apartment, a cozy space filled with film posters and second-hand furniture. Ethan held his hand, steady as a rock. "You don't owe them anything," he said. "But if you want to face them, I'll be there." Every step. The meeting was set for a neutral spot, a quiet diner in Queens. Nicholas arrived early, his sketchbook clutched like a shield. Ethan sat beside him, a silent anchor. When his parents walked in, Nicholas barely recognized them. His father's broad shoulders seemed stooped, his mother's eyes red-rimmed. His sister, Lily, now 16, trailed behind, her gaze fixed on the floor. The conversation was stilted. His mother spoke first, her voice trembling. We made a mistake. Nicholas. We want you to come home." His father nodded, but his jaw was tight. "We've been going to counseling, trying to understand." Nicholas's heart pounded. He wanted to believe them, but the words fell hollow. "You threw me out," he said, his voice steady despite the ache. "You didn't try to understand then. Why should I trust you now?" Lily looked up, tears in her eyes. "I miss you, Nick. I was scared to say anything then. I'm sorry." Her words cut deeper than his parents. Nicholas softened, but he wasn't ready to forgive. "I built a life," he said. "I have people who care about me. I'm not sure I can go back." His father's face hardened, but his mother reached out, stopping short of touching him. "Please, just think about it." Nicholas left the diner shaken, Ethan's arm around his shoulders. Back at Marcus's penthouse, he sat on the balcony, staring at the city skyline. Marcus joined him, offering a glass of wine. "You don't have to decide tonight," he said. "Family's complicated. Give it time." Nicholas nodded, but his mind was a storm. Ethan stayed over, holding him as he wrestled with the past. "You're enough," Ethan whispered. With or without them, the next weeks were a blur. Nicholas threw himself into his art, his sketches darker, more intense. His professors praised his raw emotion, urging him to submit to a local gallery show. Ethan helped him prepare, framing his pieces with care. The night of the show, Nicholas stood among strangers, watching them admire his work. Ethan beamed beside him, proud and unwavering. But the question of his family lingered. A letter arrived from Lily, apologizing again, begging him to call. Nicholas stared at it for hours, torn between the boy who'd loved his family and the man who'd learned to survive without them. The gallery show was a turning point. One of Nicholas's pieces, a vibrant painting of two silhouetted figures under a street lamp, sold for $500. His first real sale. The buyer, a curator named Vanessa, offered him a spot in a larger exhibition. "You've got something special," she told him. "Keep going." Nicholas was floored, but the high was tempered by the weight of his family's outreach. He hadn't responded to Lily's letter, though her words echoed in his mind. Ethan noticed his distraction, pulling him aside one night as they walked through Central Park. "Talk to me," he said, his brown eyes searching Nicholas's face. "You're carrying this alone." Nicholas sighed, the autumn leaves crunching underfoot. "I want to forgive them, but I'm scared. What if they hurt me again?" Ethan squeezed his hand. "You're stronger now. Whatever happens, you've got me. Marcus, your art. You're not that kid on the bench anymore." The words steadied him. Nicholas began to see his life in color again, not just the grays of his past. He and Ethan grew closer, their dates filled with laughter and quiet moments that felt like home. One evening, as they watched a sunset from Brooklyn Bridge, Ethan pulled Nicholas close. "I'm falling for you," he said, his voice soft but sure. Nicholas's heart swelled, but fear flickered. "I'm a mess sometimes," he admitted. "You sure you want this?" Ethan laughed, kissing his forehead. "I want all of you, mess included." Marcus, too, became a pillar. He mentored Nicholas, introducing him to artists and gallery owners. But he also pushed Nicholas to confront his past. "You can't move forward if you're always looking back," he said one night over dinner. "Talk to your sister, at least. She's reaching out." Nicholas finally called Lily. Her voice was small but earnest, filled with regret. "I should have stood up for you," she said. "Dad's trying. Nick. He's not perfect, but he's different now." They talked for an hour, memories of their childhood surfacing, building forts, sneaking cookies, laughing until they couldn't breathe. Nicholas cried after hanging up, a mix of relief and longing. He wasn't ready to see his parents, but Lily was a start. The larger exhibition loomed, a chance to showcase his work to a bigger audience. Nicholas poured himself into his art, creating pieces that told his story, loss, resilience, love. Ethan was there every step, helping him choose which works to display. The night before the show, they stayed up late in Marcus's penthouse, framing canvases and stealing kisses between laughs. But the past wasn't done with him. The morning of the exhibition, Nicholas got a text from his mother. "We're coming to your show. Please don't turn us away." Panic gripped him. He hadn't invited them, hadn't even told them about it. Lily must have shared the details. Ethan found him pacing, his sketchbook abandoned. "You've got this," he said, pulling Nicholas into a hug. "This is your night. They don't get to take that from you." As the gallery filled with people, Nicholas stood tall, Ethan by his side. His paintings glowed under the lights, each one a piece of his soul. When his parents and Lily walked in, his heart stuttered, but he didn't falter. This was his space, his truth. The gallery buzzed with energy, voices mingling with the clink of wine glasses. Nicholas's paintings drew gasps and whispers. their raw emotion pulling people in. But his focus was on the three figures standing by his largest piece, a canvas of a lone figure on a bench, city lights blurring in the background. His mother approached first, her eyes wet. "These are beautiful. Nicholas," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm so proud of you." The words he'd once longed for felt strange now, like they belonged to someone else's life. His father stood back, his expression unreadable. Lily hugged Nicholas tightly, whispering, "You're amazing." Nicholas nodded, his throat tight. "Thanks for coming," he managed, glancing at Ethan, who gave him a reassuring smile. His father finally spoke, his voice low. "We messed up, son. I'm trying to understand. I want to make this right." Nicholas searched his father's face for sincerity. He saw regret, but also the shadow of the man who'd thrown him out. "I appreciate that," he said carefully. "But I need time." His father nodded, and they left soon after, Lily promising to call. Nicholas felt a weight lift, but also a new ache. Forgiveness wasn't simple. It was a journey, not a destination. The exhibition was a triumph. Vanessa introduced Nicholas to collectors, and 2 more pieces sold. Marcus beamed like a proud father, toasting to Nicholas's future. Ethan stayed close, his presence a quiet strength. As the night wound down, they slipped onto the gallery's balcony, the city sprawling below. "You were incredible," Ethan said, his hand finding Nicholas's. "I'm so proud of you." Nicholas leaned into him, the city's lights reflecting in his eyes. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Or Marcus." Ethan kissed him, soft and sure. "You did this. You're stronger than you know." The next months were a whirlwind. Nicholas's art gained traction, his name whispered in New York's art scene. He and Ethan grew inseparable, their love a steady flame. Marcus offered Nicholas a job at his company, managing a community outreach program for at-risk youth. It was a chance to give others the help he'd received, and Nicholas jumped at it. But his family remained a question mark. He met Lily for coffee, their bond slowly rebuilding. His parents sent letters, attended counseling, and asked to meet again. Nicholas agreed, but set boundaries. "I'm not the kid you knew," he told them at a park, Ethan by his side. "I'm building my own life now." His mother cried. His father nodded. "We'll keep trying," his father said. "As long as it takes." Nicholas didn't know if he'd ever fully trust them, but he was open to trying. For now, that was enough. As spring bloomed, Nicholas and Ethan moved into a small apartment together, a step toward their future. Nicholas's art adorned the walls, a testament to his journey. One night, as they lay in bed, Ethan traced the lines of Nicholas's face. "You're my home," he whispered. Nicholas smiled, his heart full. "You're mine." Nicholas stood on the rooftop of Marcus's building, the city skyline a glittering promise. It was a year since he'd slept on that park bench, a year since his world had shattered and rebuilt itself. Now, at 19, he was an artist, a partner, a man with a purpose. His work with Marcus's outreach program gave him meaning. He mentored teens like him, kids kicked out, scared, alone. He shared his story, his art, his hope, watching their eyes light up with possibility. Marcus became more than a mentor. He was family, the kind Nicholas chose. His relationship with Ethan deepened, rooted in love and trust. They fought sometimes over dishes, over fears, but always came back to each other. Ethan's film projects took off, and Nicholas cheered him on, their dreams intertwined. They'd walk hand in hand through the city, unafraid, unashamed. His family was a work in progress. Lily visited often, their bond stronger than ever. His parents kept reaching out, and Nicholas met them sparingly, each meeting a step toward understanding. He didn't need their approval anymore, but he wanted a connection, however fragile. "We're learning," his mother said at their last meeting, her hand squeezing his. Nicholas nodded, letting the moment sit. One evening, Marcus threw a party to celebrate the outreach program's success. Nicholas's art hung on the walls, a symbol of his journey. Ethan stood beside him, their fingers laced. As guests mingled, Marcus pulled Nicholas aside. "I'm proud of you," he said. "You've turned pain into something beautiful." Nicholas's eyes stung. "I owe you so much." Marcus shook his head. "You owe yourself. You chose to keep going." Later, Nicholas and Ethan slipped onto the rooftop, the city alive below. Nicholas thought of the bench, the rain, the despair. He thought of Marcus's kindness, Ethan's love, his own resilience. He'd been broken, but he'd rebuilt himself, piece by piece. Ethan pulled him close, their lips meeting under the stars. "Here's to us," Ethan said, his voice a vow. Nicholas smiled, his heart steady. "To us." And to hope. As the city hummed, Nicholas knew he'd found his place, not just in New York, but in the world. He was no longer the boy on the bench. He was Nicholas, artist, lover, survivor. And for the first time, he believed his story was just beginning.